So to start my previews of the day, we've got the Boston-Detroit game on right now. Rask and Howard. Boston needs to win this game. This is one of 15 games on TV today. Mason and Halak are playing on another channel somewhere. Winnipeg and the Islanders. And I'm going to try to do somewhat of a Christmas theme with this. The lump of coal of the two teams in each matchup. Detroit's had the lump of coal so far this year in terms of their record. There's a lot of young stars on this team that are trying to figure out who they're going to be in the NHL. So if there's a lump of coal to be given out, it'll go to Detroit. Boston should win this game today, but we'll see. Boston's had games they should win today that they haven't exactly been stellar in, and Rask's overdue for a crappy game. So due to the fact that Boston, Detroit, and Winnipeg and the Islanders are both taking place at 10 o'clock this morning my time, 1 o'clock Eastern for everybody else, there's not much point in me doing previews for those games, as they'll already be through probably at least a period by this time this video gets posted. I'll just say this. Boston and Winnipeg are the ones that you'd favor to win, but as last night proved, yeah, sometimes all the underdogs come through. And in terms of a lump of coal, between these two, if you have to pick, I guess the Islanders lately have had that lump of coal in their stocking in terms of their record. But the Islanders are in a playoff spot. They weren't in one last year, so I don't think that they're that upset with their placement. A question that I heard asked this week on one of the shows that I watch is which teams would consider themselves happy to this point of the season. It's an interesting point, and it's worth talking about in a video, which teams would actually consider themselves happy. It's an odd concept since we're only 45% of the way through the season. You don't want to start getting happy yet, because there's a lot left that can happen between now and the end of the season. All right, let's get into the actual preview part of things. So, Anaheim in Pittsburgh. Gibson's likely. Murray's likely. Lump of coal definitely would go to both, actually. Anaheim, it would be a lump of coal for their health record. Until everybody's healthy, we don't know what Anaheim has, but it's becoming a question of when everybody's going to be healthy, not if. And for Pittsburgh, it's just the fact that they could find themselves out of the playoffs. And the last time this happened, they fired the coach. And everybody says, oh, they won't fire the coach this time. I don't know. When you've got a GM saying dramatic moves have got to be made, and your main players are guys you can't trade, that would be the next dramatic move. And GMs never admit when they're thinking about getting rid of a coach. It worked last time. Remember last time there were pedestrian stats being put up by Sidney Crosby, people saying, is he over the hill? The Penguins were down and out. There was talk about, well, is it time to tear it all apart? You bring in Sullivan, and suddenly the team's fantastic. Is it unlikely that he's going to get fired? Oh, heavily unlikely. But I don't know how far Pittsburgh falls back or for how long they're out of a playoff spot before something dramatic has to happen. Because they want to win 3 in a row. You want to be the first dynasty, the first official recognized dynasty since the 80s. We'll see what happens with that. And for Anaheim, they have the joy of trying to stop Crosby and Malkin. And if it's Gibson and Murray, for me, the edge in net goes to Anaheim. But it's by a sliver. So there you go. Buffalo's in Carolina. Buffalo's coming off of a win last night. Probably going to feel pretty good. But they're going to need to keep their wits about them, because Carolina is deceptive right now. So it's Ward is confirmed for Carolina. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't Leonard for Buffalo. Coming off the win last night, I would think they'd give him another start tonight. Maybe they throw in Johnson. Maybe because it's a back-to-back, but personally I would leave Leonard in there. It's a tough game to call because Carolina's been so up and so down this week. And Buffalo, well, they're Buffalo, right? But they've won 9 games. Those 9 wins came from somewhere. And it happens. They do occasionally win a game. And Carolina would look like a team that if they can beat anybody, it should be Carolina, shouldn't it? They're both last place in their divisions, even though in terms of record and points, Carolina is much better. But it's And lump of coal, both teams. Both teams got a lump of coal well before Christmas. Buffalo's record and just Carolina's inability to get anything going. And it's interesting because if Carolina misses the playoffs by 2 or 3 points, are they going to look back on October and November and say, if Darling had been a better goaltender, we would have made it? And does Darling become the scapegoat? I think we're halfway there now. Ward's the starter again. Ward started 4 out of 5 now. We're halfway to the Darling is the scapegoat situation, although I don't think their defense has been fantastic either. When you lose a game 8-1, it's not just your goaltender that's a problem. It's a lot of people. But it's easy to point the finger at the goalie and say, well, we didn't have confidence because look at our goaltender. And for Buffalo, they're in, we've got to save some face here. We can't get caught by Arizona. We can't find ourselves behind Florida at the end of the year. We've got to save some face here. We'll see if they can continue. Can they win 2 in a row? It's a genuine question about Buffalo. Can they win 2 in a row? All right, Chicago. Chicago Blackhawks find themselves tonight in against the New Jersey Devils. So the surprisingly good Devils against the surprisingly mediocre Blackhawks. Surprising depending on who you talk to. There were plenty of people who said this is the year Chicago's going to fall. There were others, myself included, who said Chicago's going to be really good this year. And to this point, we've both been right, depending on the night of the year that you look at. It's Crawford and Schneider, which means that Chicago has an advantage in net, although it's not as much of an advantage as some might think. Crawford is, though, right now for me anyways, he's one of the top 3 for the Vezina. Crawford, Vasilevsky, and Bobrovsky. I know Bobrovsky hasn't been fantastic in some games lately, but I still think he would be nominated for Vezina if they had the voting today. Since Jersey's at home, I would say you'd probably give them the advantage. If you had to say which one got a lump of coal in their stocking, it'd be Chicago. And I really think that they're older, and that's not good. You see, the NHL's going younger, and New Jersey's a perfect example of this. They're young. They've got guys like Bratt and Heischer and Butcher. And Chicago decided in the offseason, all right, we're going to go back to some of the old guards. So they got older and slower, while New Jersey got younger and faster, and New Jersey's having a very good season. And Chicago's has been... They had the 5-game winning streak, which is good, because without it, they're not in the playoffs. And they still may find themselves out of the playoffs at the end of the year. So we'll see what happens with them. But, again, lump of coal would go to Chicago. All right. Minnesota and Tampa Bay. Minnesota's coming off of a loss against Florida last night. I won't say stunning. I was going to say stunning, but it's not really stunning. Now they get to play the Lightning. So their reward for losing in Florida is getting Tampa the next day. That's their lump of coal right there. Is Tampa, the team that you could say hands out lumps of coal to a lot of teams during the season. Except Vegas somehow. Vegas handed them one. But it's Stalock. It's likely Vasilevsky. I can't see it not being Vasilevsky unless he's hurt. And again, I get all the goalie matchups from dailyfaceoff.com, which collects that information from numerous websites and Twitter resources. Vasilevsky's better than Stalock. Offensively, they're better than Minnesota. Defensively, I'd give the edge to Minnesota. I still think this is Tampa's game. I'd be very surprised if Tampa lost this. And yet, it's a back-to-back, and Minnesota lost the first half of it. There should be some form of bounce-back / pushback from the Minnesota Wild tonight. I'd be very surprised if there isn't something. Anything. Just anything. We'll find out. All right. We're down to Montreal. The Montreal Canadiens. On a very successful road trip through Western Canada. Stop me when you've heard this before. Toronto, Philly. Yeah, it's becoming a thing now. Ottawa. Like, if you take a trip through Western Canada, we're very, very... we're very nice to teams coming into our barns and beating us. Whether it's Vancouver, Calgary, or Edmonton. Sure. It's likely Price and Talbot. They could start Niemi for Montreal, but I'd be surprised because they have a few days off. So they can start Price in the back-to-back. Shouldn't be a bad thing for him. He played well last night. And Talbot, I'd be stunned if it wasn't Talbot for Edmonton. Edmonton should win this. They're getting a team that's played 3 games in 4 nights. They're getting a team that should be tired. and Edmonton's on a 3-game winning streak. Montreal, though, has won those 2 games out west, and Montreal's going to look to put up goals early because towards the end of a game when you're in your 3rd and 4 nights, you can get tired, and it can show on the ice. It's usually really obvious who's played 3 games in 4 nights by the second half of the game. The lump of coal would be both right now. Montreal is not in a playoff position after winning the division last year. Edmonton is not in a playoff position after being second in the division last year, making the second round. Both teams would feel like they got a lump of coal for Christmas at this stage. Edmonton, though, is on an upswing. Montreal sees themselves on an upswing. We'll see what happens from here. So the Ottawa Senators are in Florida, and this is an awkward matchup. I'm going to tell you guys right now, these are 2 of the lower teams on the power rankings. I'm going to go ahead and give something away here. That Ottawa and Florida are not in the top row. And if Ottawa wants to avoid being potentially 30th this week, yeah, they can't lose to Florida. And for Florida, this would be 3 wins in a row if they win this. Florida would be on a nice winning streak going into Christmas. Both teams right now would feel like they got a lump of coal for Christmas, as Ottawa is nowhere near the team that they were that was 1 goal away from a Stanley Cup final appearance. They were so close. And Florida is nowhere near the team that won their Division 2 seasons ago. It's Reimer, it's Condon. Yeah, really throw a dice there. Reimer's been good in the 2 wins. I want to see him go on a streak, but every time I say it's going to happen, it just falls apart. And for Condon, he's not what he was last year. And I think Florida's going to end up with a 3-game winning streak coming out of tonight. I'd be very surprised if they didn't. And yet yesterday just surprised me up and down. All the underdogs, all the teams that shouldn't have won. Which was kind of fun at the same time. It was kind of fun to watch hockey that way. But very, very, very tough for people who might be betting on results of games. Unless you bet on all the dogs. If you bet on all the dogs last night, you would have made a pretty penny. You would have lost a lot of money betting on only dogs before that, because that's why they're underdogs. You lose money on them if you bet on them before that. All right. Philly. Philly's in Columbus. And Philly's coming off of a loss to Buffalo. Columbus is really, really hard to predict. Elliott's likely the starter for Philly. Again, we're going into the break, so even if it's a back-to-back, I would be very surprised if a backup goes in, because every team in the NHL gets 3 days off after today. Some of them are going to have 4. In the Flames' case, they don't play today. So they've got a 4-day break before they come back minimum. So I don't worry about whether it's a back-to-back in terms of who I think is going to play in net. Bobrovsky's been one of the best goalies in the league all year. He's been shaky lately. There's always that period that teams and players go through where things are a little shaky. And Columbus / Bobrovsky's going through that now. And for Philly, they've won a lot of games, but then they lost to Buffalo. So it's really hard to say, okay, well, they're on their way up, and then they lose to Buffalo. A win in Columbus tonight would do a lot to right that ship. So let's see what they do. And, Elliott-Bobrovsky is a lot closer a matchup than I think a lot of people realize. Elliott's a better goaltender than a lot of people realize, and I will defend him into the ground if I have to. But I like Elliott a lot. He has definitely been an upgrade from Mason in my eyes. We'll see how that works out. And Mason playing today against Halak. So we'll see how close that is at the end of the night. All right. So, Leafs fans, you guys are allowed to go ahead and come into the video at this point. Toronto with Freddie Anderson's in New York against the Rangers and Lundqvist. This is a matchup between two teams and 2 fandoms that think that they deserve challenger consideration, Stanley Cup contenders consideration. Austin Matthews is playing tonight. I have my concerns about them putting him in, but I have faith that if Toronto's going to put him in, that he's okay, that he's ready. If Lundqvist is starting for the Rangers, I would not be surprised. I'd be very surprised. And again, this is a question mark there because it hasn't been confirmed yet at the time I'm recording this. I can't see Pavlik starting against Toronto. Even though Pavlik's been good in his last few games, it's got to be Lundqvist. And a lump of coal, well, in this game it would be Philly, because they're out of the playoffs right now. In this game, if there's a lump of coal, well, they just got their Christmas miracle with Austin Matthews coming back. Rangers had their lump of coal in October with their start to the season. They're okay now, so both teams are having a happy Christmas right now in my eyes. And if Toronto loses this one, it's not a big deal. If the Rangers lose this one, I don't think it's the end of the world. But in the Metro, it is far more dire than if you lose in the Atlantic and you're a top team. I would look for the Rangers to come out very hungry at the start of this game, and I'd be a little bit surprised if they don't win. And yet, it's Toronto. They're a good team. Okay, so that's it for the Toronto talk for now. Let's get into the Colorado Avalanche in Arizona. The Zona. Arizona with Antti Ranta. Break up the Coyotes. Wedgwood. Okay, so Detroit just tied the game at 1-1 with a shorthanded goal on Tuukka Rask. So that proves when I'm recording this. Ranta is in net. Varlamov's in net for Colorado. It should be a game where both teams are very close color-wise in terms of their jerseys. But in terms of the actual game, Colorado is looking to get out of the cellar in their division, and Arizona is looking for some respect here. They're not going to get out of the cellar in their division. Arizona's stuck there for the rest of the year. Colorado doesn't have to be. And this is a game Colorado has to win. You have to win this. You have to continue to improve that road record. You have to continue to prove that, okay, we're not last year's team. We're not going to fall back. They've already shown they're better than last year's team. Last year's Colorado Avalanche went into the tank in November, and then they went back into the tank after the new year. And this year's team doesn't have any signs. It hasn't shown signs of doing that yet. Even though the record hasn't been great since November 1st, it's been a hell of a lot better than it was after last November 1st, at this point last season. And for Arizona, it's just been awful. We'll see if it gets any better, but it's been an awful season. Last night's overtime win is a nice emotional win for them. It's got to feel great. It's got to be nice to get Keller, back on the score sheet. Wedgwood gets a win, but I wouldn't bet on them making it 2 in a row. I think Colorado's a very motivated team right now. We'll find out. I throw that in every time now, just because there are people who get upset that I always do the we'll see kind of attitude. So it's like, yeah, all right, I'll just say we'll find out every time. Because I'm not psychic. I don't know if I'm telling stories outside of church or not, but I'm not psychic. I don't see the future. And these are just, this is who your matchups are, and these are who your goaltenders are. Let me know what you guys think. I'd have more on here, but of course with 15 games, there's limited room for everything to be up here. Nashville's in Dallas. UC Saros is likely. Ben Bishop is confirmed. I'd like to see Saros not have as good a game as he had the last time he played Dallas. That would be awesome. I'd like to see Ben Bishop play really, really well against Nashville. That would be awesome as well. If Dallas could beat Nashville in regulation, then we start talking about Dallas moving up. We start talking about, can Dallas catch Winnipeg? Can Dallas catch St. Louis? Can Dallas catch Nashville? If Nashville beats Dallas in regulation, that talk won't be there right now. Dallas is at home, Nashville on the road. Dallas is better at home than they are on the road. I would like to see Dallas win this one. I hesitate to make a call on this one. If I had to say a lump of coal in the previous game would definitely be Arizona. I would say the lump of coal right now is Dallas, is for the fact that there are people who said they'd be first, but I'd be splitting hairs. I think both teams are happy with where they are right now. Ken Hitchcock yesterday was asked about whether he was happy with where his team is, and he is. He's relatively happy. Any coach, though, will always see something that needs to be improved. Coaches are sticklers for every little detail, and even when everything's perfect, they still hesitate to say, oh, we're doing great right now, because they don't want to jinx it, and they don't want the players in the locker room to hear that and go, all right, we're great. It goes to their head, and then they start falling apart. And go, Coach, you said we were great, and then, it just doesn't work for them. Next up, Vegas is at home to Washington. This could be the game of the night. Washington is coming off of a surprise loss in overtime against Arizona, and Vegas has won every single game they've played since their inception, or so it seems. Vegas has experienced a crazy... Their schedule's been light for the last couple of weeks. But teams that I had ahead of them have been losing. So people who've talked a lot about my power rankings, and tonight you'll see it. Vegas has made a healthy move up based on the fact that everybody ahead of them has lost and they've won. And despite the fact that they haven't really been playing, they haven't been losing either. Holtby's in net. Fleury's highly likely. I'd be very surprised if it was Subban. But even if it was Subban, I would still take Vegas in this game. I will not ever again say, oh, Vegas won't win this one. Because they've taught me better. They've taught me to know better than that. They're very stealthy. And now, the funny thing is, I think, and I'm gonna say this now with this preview, they're not getting respect. The one thing I've started hearing, and I've never said it in any of my videos, is, well, visiting teams are probably out drinking and partying in Vegas before games, and they probably don't have their mind on hockey. That's BS. That's absolute crap. I have never seen that excuse used in any other city. Yes, Vegas has legal gambling. Yes, Vegas has all of these things that other cities may not. But if a guy's going to go out and drink and party, there's a lot of things to do in a lot of these cities. The idea that NHLers go to Vegas and lose all self-control is absolutely ridiculous, and it takes away from what Vegas has done so far. So every time I hear that, I kind of just tune it out. Because that's not why Vegas is winning. You can't tell me that Vegas is going to go out tonight against a Capitals team where a lot of them are hungover. A lot of them are out partying. They didn't sleep last night. These are professional hockey league players making millions. This in the 80s, yeah, you probably would have had a bunch of guys who were hungover or potentially still drunk on the ice, and Vegas would have made a meal of them. That's not what's going on right now. Vegas is genuinely really, really good. Now, Washington comes in as one of the teams with the best record since November 1st. So, you know, to quote UFC, let's get it on and see what happens between these two teams. I think that's going to be a lot of fun tonight. But I still think Vegas is going to win it because I've learned not to bet against. Don't bet against Vegas. Don't do it. San Jose's at home against LA. Yeah. In the game that the hockey guy's probably not going to want to watch the most. San Jose's at home against the Kings. It's likely Jones. It's likely Quick. This is a game LA needs to hold off San Jose. San Jose's been playing better than LA over the last couple of weeks. Overall, the Kings are still the better team. And tonight they can show that. The Kings can really kind of put a stomping on San Jose, which would do a favor for the one team that has the night off, Calgary. Calgary needs San Jose to lose games in regulation. That being said, I have a funny feeling San Jose is going to win this. I think San Jose is going to beat LA. It's just me. Lump of coal? Neither. They're both doing really well. Like Washington and Vegas, there wouldn't be a lump of coal in that one either. They're both doing very well this season. Capitals much better than what was expected going into this season, especially from yours truly. I expect them to be in the playoffs, not to be a top contender, though. And the Kings are way ahead of where they should have been, and I think San Jose is right about where they belong. And come playoff time, we'll see how that shakes out for them. But right now, they're right about where they belong. And finally, last but not least, the thing de resistance. The St. Louis Blues desperately need a win. Hey, look, it's the Canucks. Looking back on when Sanford would be the goaltender that they'd start against Vancouver, and I remember pre-game, you know, Canuck fans saying to me, "Oh, we'll be good that they're putting Sanford in net," and then I try to remind them, you know, Sanford shut us out last time, right? Oh, but his stats are crap. Yeah, I know, but they're good against Vancouver because St. Louis likes to destroy Vancouver. And it didn't matter how bad St. Louis was or how good Vancouver was. It's just, that's the way it usually turned out. It's likely Allen and it's likely Markstrom. It doesn't really matter who's in net for Vancouver right now. They're both being equally stellar. And I don't think it matters who's in net for St. Louis. Allen's a bona fide starter and Hutton's the best backup in the NHL. Pick your poison. Absolutely pick your poison. I really genuinely think this game could be yet another knock that sends Vancouver further away from that playoff position, especially if San Jose were to win and they were to lose. We can start getting away from the silliness of, can the Canucks get that wild card? Can they get in the playoffs? And start discussing, okay, it's still a rebuild. They're still not a playoff team. Let's see what happens from here. And for St. Louis, yeah, you got to win this game, guys. Blues have got to win this game. You've got a Vancouver team that's hurting, that their defense isn't playing particularly well. Their goaltending hasn't been very good. You can try to stop Brock Besser. He's the only Canuck that's guaranteed to score every night, it seems. But that'll be fun. Besser versus Tarasenko, and go. My guess is Tarasenko gets 3, Besser gets 1, and the St. Louis Blues, coming off of a rough loss in Edmonton, and just maybe feeling like this Western Canadian trip hasn't been as wonderful for them as it's been for other teams. Maybe the Canucks are going to make their trip a little more wonderful tonight and show them some Christmas cheer. The lump of coal would be Vancouver's right now for health reasons. It would have been St. Louis's early in the season for health reasons, but generally, St. Louis is where they wanted to be. Vancouver's kind of where we expected them to be this year. They might actually be a little high. There may be a market correction on the way for them, though. All right, let me know what you guys think. Let me know your picks, and thank you very much for watching. It's a lot of games. Man, when they do all 15 like this, it's a lot of games. So, yeah, we will talk during the day, and we will talk later tonight after all this hockey's finished. I'm going to go watch the second and third between Boston and Detroit. Sounds like it's a fun game so far. And, yeah, so let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe. At the time I started recording this, 29 away from 25,000 subscribers. Thank you, each and every one of you. Happy holidays to those of you that I may not see over the next couple of days because you got holiday stuff to do. I will still churn out holiday videos. Just because there's no hockey after tonight until the 27th doesn't mean I won't be talking about hockey with you fine people who do stick around for the holidays. So, yeah, and for people who say, oh, he's not going to do anything on Christmas, yeah, I am. Of course I am. Yeah, of course I am. Why wouldn't I do something for Christmas? That's crazy. I did last year, too. All right. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.